Hey everyone, it's Shawn. Welcome to another edition of Best in Events. Today we're going to be looking at kind of what we're seeing in the world as is our usual theme on the channel, but we'll also be doubling down on site selection. So of course, as we've gone through all the changes we've been talking about, the need for cleaning and how spacing may impact things, and all of that's going to play together as part of the process of site selection. Of course, very curious to see what people are thinking as far as contract term negotiations. We picked that up in one of our prior episodes of Best in Events. So, a lot more thought is going to go into site selection because everything's changed. Your old notebooks that you've had from prior years, prior events you've been at, from talking to your fellow meeting planners, all of that changed because the world has changed. So, Leanne Calderwood is going to join us today. She's in the site selection world. She also has an excellent channel talking a lot about the events world too. So we'll let her talk about that a bit so you can become familiar with it. But our idea is to really spread some knowledge about site selection. So Leanne, let me welcome you and give you the screen for a minute. Maybe you can tell folks about you and your background, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that might help our audience.
Sure. Thanks for asking me to join you today, Shawn. My name is Leanne Calderwood. I'm with Conference Direct. We're a global site selection firm. But I also manage two blogs for the meetings industry. One blog is for our meeting planner clients, and we do talk a lot about site selection, but also share about other trends and event design things that we're seeing out there. And my second blog is actually for the meeting partners. So these are the people that we work with every day to successfully negotiate contracts on behalf of our clients. So that blog over at leannecalderwood.com helps those who are trying to attract more meeting planner attention, more site selection professional attention. Those posts over there help them work better with planners like myself.
Fantastic, folks. And I see some of you are tuning in live, so feel free to drop questions. Let us know what issues you're having with site selection or what you're curious about. I'd be curious just to kind of get a general feel, Leanne. We're starting to hear some people are starting to do events again. We had a guest on here who actually had a 100-person event about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So people are starting to venture out a little bit. We know some people are trying to start to plan for the fall, and they're talking about events. So what are you just seeing generally in the market as people are starting to engage in the conversations about having events? What's going on right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. People are starting to meet again. What the thing that they're watching the most is the gathering restrictions that might be taking place at the local level of where the event takes place. So there are places that are hosting events, and there are some states and provinces that are still being fairly cautious and not overly optimistic about holding events in the near future. It's not stopping people from looking ahead, but they're certainly watching to government and the local health authorities about what they can hold. So the 50 and 100-person events are going to be a lot easier to hold in the near future than, of course, those citywides of 200, 300, 400 or more people.
Leanne, what are some of the new things that you and your business partner are doing in regards to working with your clients?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we are doing a number of things. We're very fortunate. Conference Direct has always had a virtual events arm. And prior to COVID-19, it's not a service that our clients used a lot. That department now is extremely busy. We're working with almost all of our clients about virtual event options and what it looks like to put their live program online. So we're working a lot with our clients in that capacity. The other thing that my business partner and I, Stephen Ng, what we're doing is we are almost over communicating. We are staying in touch with our clients every single day, every single week about what the gathering restrictions might look like from coast to coast, as well as tips and tricks to kind of get them over the hurdle. Many of our clients are experienced event professionals, and they may not need some of the tips and tricks that we have to offer. But a lot of our clients are not CMPs by trade. They may be association executives or association membership assistants. So moving from live to virtual is not as easy as flipping a switch for them. So we're trying to coach them through that process. So by offering blog posts and videos, as well as links to other resources that they can tap into, because it's a whole brand new skill set for those individuals having to move their events out of live and into virtual.
Yeah, I mean, I think live skill sets is a great great word to put around it, right? So we have the live, the virtual skill set. And I would think, Leanne, for people to even seasoned meeting planners to think about these restrictions. And I'm sitting here in Florida and we're watching a wave of new mask requirements come in. And, sometimes they're coming out, they're rolling out with, 24, 36 hours notice. So, we're watching cities and counties take action. And it's like here, effective 48 hours from now, you're going to have this mask mandate. And every one of them has different exemptions. Every one of them has different setups for how they're enforced. So I'm curious, as a meeting planner, if you say, okay, I'm going to, pick your city and this is the venue I want, what do you do to monitor and plan in case you get maybe a last minute switch,
Yeah, I have to feel for meeting planners right now. They're facing these changes every day, to your point. I think staying in touch with the DMO, or the Destination Marketing Organization, also known maybe as a tourism bureau or a CVB, hopefully they are staying on top of those protocols that they can arm the planner with when planning in that particular location. But also the hotels and the convention centers should be very well aware of what it looks like to hold an event safely and legally and in their venue. So leaning on your CSM or whoever's left standing at the hotel these days, leaning on those individuals, leaning on the destination, that would be my first phone call if I was boots on the ground planning a meeting in any jurisdiction at this time.
Deirdra?
Yeah, we just found out in Ontario, I'm in the province of Ontario, that the province will not mandate wearing masks. However, it will be left up to the jurisdiction of each city or municipality. And we're also in a phase 2 phase. So our gatherings are still at only 10 legally. Weddings and funerals, you can now have 50 people at those ceremonies, or 30% capacity of a venue. So it is really tricky. I know I'm planning an event for a client in Costa Rica or Cancun for next year, and I had to go in and do extensive research on the venue site to find out what their COVID standards were and what their seating is going to be look like. We're a small group, only 50, but as a planner, we have to do additional research that we might not necessarily get from the CVB or the DMO.
Yeah, no, the hotels need to be on top of it, and I have to feel for the hotels and destinations as well, because every single jurisdiction, be it Ontario versus BC versus Alberta, and in the US, whether it's a state versus a county versus a municipality, how they define gathering is different. So in Ontario, you're talking about 10 people in a gathering, whereas in Alberta, they're talking about 50 people social, but 100 people in a seated audience. So no one is following the same rules as far as it's this, this, and this, indoor, outdoor, social. So we're all having to interpret those rules. And for venues, social versus seated and audience, now they have to change almost their venue capacity charts to showcase what those gathering restrictions look like in their pool area or in their auditorium or in a ballroom. So there's a lot of work that's being done by the hotels, or at least it should be top of mind of the hotels to get done, to again arm planners like you, Deirdre, to ensure that you're keeping your people safe and following the local guidelines.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we started Best in Events, because we wanted to talk to suppliers and planners, because we don't know what's going on necessarily. So in speaking with you, Leanne, we're just able to learn a little bit more of what's out there.
Yeah, well, and I'm certainly not the expert of everything that's out there.
No.
I'm finding, looking at gathering restrictions, it's still very much a case-by-case Google, and there isn't really one source that's been continually updated. I believe I did find one resource once, but within 2 days it was outdated, and then of course that resource is rendered useless. So trying to find a resource where it's a one-stop shop for meeting planners, I have yet to find it.
Yeah, can't do it.
And I think it's hard to get that in general, just because, like we talked about, things are moving so fast and they're so customized, right? So you can't even understand what's happening because somebody's literally have to be typing this stuff out as quick as these orders are coming out, and they're just flying in all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think with the sorry, Shawn, I think with the influx of the change in Florida, Texas, and Arizona, where they've all got an influx of new cases, it's something that we all have to be aware of in regards to, reopening and bringing in events to different destinations. The event that I'm talking to in regards to Costa Rica, we're even considering, let's move it to next fall instead of April, because we don't even know what April's going to look like.
Well, then it's also on the planner to watch how different destinations are open and closed to people coming from the US or from Canada. And the announcement today from the European Union for planners in Europe who are planning events for North American delegates, well, the Canadians are allowed to come, but at this time, the American delegation isn't allowed to. And so planners, again, are trying to get information from all these different centers, and that's where I feel the DMO should put it top of mind, that they need to be able to answer these planners' questions because the planner can't get all the information on their own.
Yeah. Leanne, one thing I'd like to talk about for a minute, is a lot of people, particularly on site selection size, because of the spacing, the distance things, the things we've kind of alluded to here, are probably going to be in different venues than they've been in prior years, right? So your site selection is no longer like, let's just go back to where we've worked in the past. Now we have different audience sizes because you don't know what the attendance is going to be with people RSVPing in advance, because we don't, it's a little harder to predict than it would normally be in a normal year. And then now you also need to kind of think about spacing people out, and also, so what do you do to help people in that process of trying to pick that right site, given all these variables that are new this year?
Yeah, well, again, the hotels that do it right are providing that information when we go to RFP, or the request for proposal process. So in the process now, we are asking for updated capacity charts, floor plans, and menus with physical distancing requirements and health and safety requirements, because the menus have also changed. So we are asking for that right up front to ensure that we can get it to the planners, and the planners can now kind of visualize what their event might look like. And most of those RFPs are shrinking in size as planners are looking ahead to doing some hybrid things over the next 12, 18, and 24 months. So a majority of our clients have said we are not going to reach pre-COVID levels for at least 2 years, some maybe even 3 or 4 years. So the RFPs do look drastically different, and the venues recognize that. I think they understand that those physical distancing guidelines and top class AV with virtual and hybrid requirements are going to be some of the things that the planners require in order to make an educated decision.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about the fact that the economics are changing, right? You need different size spaces. You need these different AV requirements. I just want to say quickly, folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching the Best in Events show. We are a YouTube channel, and we interview people in the events world about what the future of events are, alongside my co-host, Deirdra Watson. So we invite you to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and come back for more shows. I'm going to pass it over to Deirdra for another question.
Leanne, based on some of the RFPs that you are sending out to the hotels, what are some of the things that you're getting back besides the request for the different room settings and everything else? Are you seeing anything about in possible contracts about COVID and about force majeure and things that might be changing in regards to contracts?
Yes. And you mentioned that you did a previous episode on contracts, so I hope I'm not repeating myself, but one thing we are noticing is a lot of flexibility around attrition and cancellation.
Okay.
And our contracts, we are also asking for that information up front, as well as asking for consideration of a force majeure clause that we have drafted on behalf of our clients. And now in most cases, when we're chatting with hotels about force majeure clauses, there does need to be some give and take, as there's a number of different versions and alternate clauses out there. So some give and take with the hotel about what clause is going to best fit the client and the hotel for that particular program. But we are offering a clause for them to consider as kind of a springboard for discussion. And we feel our clause kind of covers all the bases. So we work with that one. But the hotels themselves, we're in a very interesting time with hotels. They are, from what my experience is, they are being very flexible and very forgiving when it comes to forecasting for the next 12 or 18 months. When it comes to proposals coming back for programs that are 2 or 3 years out, things are starting to return to pre-COVID levels a little bit, where there's a few more parameters in place that are required.
Yeah, I'd be really curious just to dive a little deeper on that. As far as a leverage standpoint, it sounds like in the shorter term agreements, you actually are getting a lot more discussion and customization. And then longer term, everybody's expecting things to be back to more of a normal business as it was in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're seeing too. We're seeing food and beverage minimums at their pre-COVID levels for proposals coming back for 2022 and beyond. Again, this is all case by case, and it's all hotel by hotel. But those are some trends that we're starting to see.
Okay. And are people generally expecting the same capacities in 22, 23 as we're looking at a couple of years? Are people expecting to have the same number of people in the room? Or are they saying, hey, we're still going to have physical distancing?
Yeah, that's a bubble. You're right, 21 is definitely different from top to bottom. 22 and 23 I see as almost being bubble years, where the clients will start to see a return to the live events. People are going to be craving that interaction. We will have a vaccine by then. You heard it here first. We will have a vaccine by then. So capacity charts will change yet again in 22 and 23, so that we're allowed to have larger events and more people on site. So I think 22, 23 is going to be an interesting bubble as people get vaccinated, the hotels open their doors a little bit wider, the airlines start to have more lift again. That's going to take some time. And then 24, 25, that's where most intelligent people in the industry, people much smarter than me, that's what they are saying is going to be back to normal-ish, is 24, 25.
Okay. Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've talked about, and it's probably definitely part of 22, 23, is the regionality of events and conferences, and especially with the travel component. You may see regional events in Canada as well as the US, but I guess the biggest thing is based on what's happening, will there still be some travel restrictions even leading into 2023?
I think the travel restrictions at that point, and I'm making some assumptions here, I could be outdated as soon as tomorrow, but I think a lot of the travel restrictions when you get to that level might be imposed by the corporation themselves. Yeah. Because we're seeing a lot of corporations impose those travel restrictions, and they're going to see that almost as a cost reduction measure, right? And they're going to see that maybe travel is as required as it maybe used to be in the pre-COVID days. So I think corporations are going to relook at travel dollars, at professional development dollars, and that's going to impact attendance as well.
No, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. We like to think about innovation in the future here, Leanne, on the show. So what can people be thinking about to kind of add new twists or new ideas? I know people are starting to mix the virtual events. We've talked a lot about the regionalization. You have any tips or ideas that people can do to maybe think a little outside the box and open some new opportunities?
Yeah, well, I think hybrid is the next wave of events to come, and hybrid looks different from virtual. So there's another skill set that planners are going to start to learn very quickly, probably as soon as this summer and fall, is how do I successfully deliver a hybrid event where people are coming to the hotel to attend the event, but may only want to consume the content in the safety and comfort of their own guest room, and then go out to see the receptions or the social events, etc. Yep. So I think that might be the next skill set on the radar, is how do we keep people engaged when they are separated either I'm sitting at my home office consuming content while everyone else is sitting there live, or I'm doing a little bit of both when I'm on site, or when I'm fully engaged and in all the group activities when I'm on site.
Yeah, we had somebody on the production side that was recently on the show, and they were suggesting you perhaps have a small audience there so you can have some live interaction, some clapping. So, you know, you get that that look like, you know, when the speaker is speaking, they're actually looking at an audience. It's one of those things you can pretty much tell whether it's an empty room or not. So they're having small audiences, but then broadcasting it out. And I hear your idea too, which is maybe mix in receptions or other things where a large part of it can be consumed separately, but then you have some group activities too, where you're kind of really blending things in new ways.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think planners are going to really surprise us. We're going to see some fascinating event design come out of this. That is not my wheelhouse, but there are people much smarter than me that are going to create some really interesting things, and hopefully case studies then for meeting planners who need some ideas.
Deirdra?
Yeah, actually, right now my company is working on some video animation for future clients, and we're really looking at technology today and what it can do in the future. And I really think that, yeah, you're right. I mean, a number of years ago, I was at a conference in Las Vegas. I don't know how many of us there were, 15,000 plus, and I was an attendee, and you could actually sit in your hotel room and be at the conference. And I kind of like that because being an event planner, kind of like the last thing I want to do is sit in a room full of a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, I think it's a trend that's going to be embraced by a lot of people. Feelings aside about getting infected by COVID-19, I think a lot of introverts might actually really thrive in that kind of hybrid environment. As an introvert myself, I'm kind of excited to try that out and see how I learn and how I engage differently with people than when I did previously.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because one of the strategies I use at conferences a lot of times when I speak is I want to be in touch with people. I want to get a feel for the audience, but I don't necessarily want to be in every session. So I often sit in the lobby and I'll talk to people and I'll get a pulse of what's going on. I'll prep for my speech. So, you know, that kind of gives that kind of element to more attendees where you can kind of be in the know, be in the knowledge, but not actually be, you know, talking to the person next to you at your seat. So I can see how some people would actually enjoy some of these new components.
Let me ask you, Leanne, what do you suggest to planners as a site selection company that they do in regards to looking at the different locations that they may be sourcing out?
Yeah, well, right now we're advising all of our clients to consider the gathering restrictions if you are going to go outside of your local county or municipality. A lot of our clients are national associations. So their conferences jump from province to province and destination to destination. But a few of our national associations will now look to where a majority of their membership is located. And in most cases, it's Ontario, although I do have a couple oil and gas based in Alberta. So they'll do events in Ontario in 2021. And then look to start to jump around again in subsequent years. So the whole notion of staying local right now, whether you are a single individual tourist or you are a meeting planner, I think that's kind of the short-term solution is planning things locally and then starting to branch out in 21, late 21, 22.
So are you seeing any associations right now, are they looking at multi-year contracts, but kind of saying, yeah, we'll sign for 3 years, but we want to decide on the location later?
So no, we have not seen that. What we have seen is associations that, yes, traditionally they sign multi-year contracts. They're not signing multi-years right now. And that's an interesting balance because now is the time to sign multi-year contracts because hotels are hungry for business and it could be a good opportunity to capitalize on some savings. But at the same time, there is still that hesitation to look long-term until we know what's happening. at the beginning of this episode, we talked about not even knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And so meeting planners and associations are really, they're in that place of uncertainty, just like you and I. And so trying to multi-year out to 2025 right now just is not in their wheelhouse. They're still trying to figure out how to deliver a virtual event in December.
Yeah, this is true.
And so, Leanne, that brings up an interesting aside. So timeline-wise, what are people doing for the fall? So are most people going virtual for the fall and into early 2021? Is that what you're seeing with most of your clients and the people you're working with?
Yeah, no, so I should mention, if I haven't already, I am Canadian-based, and we are seeing Canadian business roll out differently than American business. So I'll say that before I answer the question. Most Canadians are canceling their programs up through to the end of 2020. Having said that, I have a couple clients. I love their optimism. They are hanging in there and crossing their fingers, and they really are going to let the government kick them out before they cancel their programs. So pretty proud of them for sticking to their guns and continuing to move forward. But for most people, if they have the option to cancel, postpone, or rebook of some sort, they're doing so through to the end of 2020. We are also seeing some Q1 2021 programs cancel and rebook. So we are starting to see the ramifications of time. As we've gone from March now to July, we are starting to see those Q1 programs indicate a desire to cancel and investigate what that would look like for the hotel at their chosen destination.
Great, thank you. Leanne, we always try to put a personal touch within these discussions, and we all know that there's a lot of stress and a lot of uncertainty. So based on that, what are you doing personally to kind of get through all this and live each day differently?
Yeah, I thank you for asking that question. I've actually had a great time. I had some big plans for my blog over at leannecalderwood.com, and I also have a YouTube channel. And I had big long-term plans for, I guess, that side of my business. And now with COVID-19, it's required me to shorten up those plans and start to work on projects. So I'm starting to launch some online courses for the meeting partner community. And so my first course will come out in the fall. I'm also doing a bit more content on blogging and vlogging, as well as creating some additional resources that people can get through my website. So I'm having a good time. I'm launching a Facebook group in a couple of weeks with one of my colleagues. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So I'm staying busy, and I'm actually quite enjoying this time. It's been the kick in the pants I've needed to do some things that I've wanted to do for a long time.
That's awesome. We love that
Thank
theme
you.
of making the best out of things. So, folks, this is the Best in Events channel. We're dedicated to the future of events and helping you plan better. So we hope you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Ring the bell for notifications. Come back for more videos. And, of course, drop us comments. Leanne, one of the things we love to do is connect people. That's one of our themes here, is to get people to the right people. So you've mentioned your blog. I think you've alluded to your YouTube channel. Why don't you tell people how to find that and how they can look up your other work and connect with you, so that if there's a reason to reach out, they can connect those dots.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So if you're a meeting planner, you can find resources to help you with your day in your career over at conferencesource.net. That's all one word, conferencesource.net. And if you are a meeting partner, hotel sales, destination sales, AV, speaker, you can find resources to help connect you better with meeting planners over at leannecalderwood.com or on my YouTube channel under Leanne Calderwood.
Fantastic, Leanne. Thanks for being such a great guest, folks. We're looking forward to seeing your comments. Pat yourself on the back for doing the hard work and investing in yourself and your business. We're really glad you're here. And Leanne, thanks for just adding so much value. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. Thanks.